One of the hardest parts of being a psychiatrist is living with the knowledge of what people do to each other. It's one thing when you see a really severe, terrible medical illness or neuropsychiatric illness, but it hits a little bit different when you're working with a child or when you're working with an adult and you hear the horrible things that other human beings did to them. And you realize that none of this needed to happen. There wasn't a gene, there wasn't a mutation, there wasn't a mass, it was none of that. If people had just treated this individual with kindness and respect in their earliest life when they were at their most vulnerable, they may have grown up healthy, happy, functional, independent, calm, relaxed. But especially when you're working in inpatient psychiatry, it takes years to orient to the fact of how much damage trauma can do to people. You might think that it's just about being triggered and having some moods and that type of thing. Actually, early life trauma can be a lot more pervasive than that. It's 2026, this is the AI age, so I'll use this as a metaphor. But imagine if you have an AI, just some sort of artificial intelligence generative model, and you train it with terrible and conflicting and weird data that have very little relevance to the actual world. That AI will produce things consistent with that environment, but the second you discharge it from that environment and ask it questions about the rest of the world, everything it does will be wrong. All of its reactions, all of its responses, all of its processing, it'll all be completely wrong. And that is how early life trauma works, because you take a human being who has the genetic code to do well and to develop and to function into a healthy, happy individual, but you put them through abuse and neglect and torture and torment. And the output can look a lot like schizophrenia. It can look a lot like psychosis. It can look like someone has a severe persistent mood disorder or a bipolar type disorder or a substance use disorder. And the person may also have those things because trauma and neglect increase your risk for any of the terrible presentations of any of these conditions. But even if a person doesn't have the genetic predilection and doesn't develop the actual full form of those conditions, you can have incredibly overlapping symptomatology just on the basis of severe early life trauma and neglect. And that is really what breaks my heart, because you're working with these people and you know that this didn't have to happen. I guess if there's one piece of actionable information you take from this video, it's don't overlook the impact that kindness can have on the world around you. Be with people in a way that creates space for them to feel dignified. You have no idea what a tremendous difference that can make. Or if you do, leave a comment, because we need to talk about it.